You need a place to live. You need a home.
Did anybody pick something other than rent? Yeah, what did you guys pick?
We did transportation first
Oh, why?
to get to our job.
Oh, yeah, we had, one of the groups was, talking about like going to food pantries and utilizing that, but then they didn't have the transportation thing filled. So it's like, well, how on earth are you going to go to the food pantry if you can't get there?
So I've done this actually a few different times, different setups though. But what always strikes me is that not the decisions you make to pay, that's not the tough stuff. It's decision you make, what you're gonna have to do, not without.
So that's a great question. So then, some groups were willing to share what at the end is still naked, what has no cash on it. What did you decide never to pay in this scenario?
Well, we're bad people, and one of our chance cards was that our mom passed away, and we were supposed to send $300 to our sister to bury her, but she's still dead, so we didn't do that. We needed diapers.
We're laughing about that, and Sheila's been here long enough to know, we get this call about once a week. From a client who has lost someone close to them and is looking for help with their final expenses. So that is for real life, right? We actually, if you look out in the garden we put out here, we call it our healing and memorial garden. Because for some people on this earth, that is the only place they are remembered. Because there is not money to buy that headstone or that memorial plot. Our welfare office has a fund that they will use to help pay someone's final expenses, because that's a request that they get even more often than we do.
Do you know how much we pay?
I do not.
$250.
There it is, right?
That's it?
That doesn't cover the cost of anything.
What else did folks choose to not pay? Yeah, like this.
Utilities.
Utilities, what was your rationale there?
We would have some grace before we got shut off.
Yeah, I know some of you are PSG people in here, you know, they don't like you don't need to out yourself, I'm not gonna look directly at you, but they won't shut you off for the first month. If we play this in the winter, they won't shut you off for the spring. So it is not uncommon for our families to know, you wanna know somebody who knows exactly when that shut off date starts? That's a family living in poverty, because you know when that shut off date comes, whether or not you're actually gonna get cut off in the long run.
One of the things we started doing was like Googling like assistance programs, like some of us knew about like Live or whatever, and I was like, well, are there like transit vouchers? And we look it up, and it was like, if you're 62 and over or disabled, and I was like, that's it? Like there's nobody else? So like this family couldn't use that.
Yeah, I heard a lot of groups in this, so tell me about, I heard there was a lot of creativity happening, like we don't need to spend $300 on this, so tell me about what are some of the strategies that you use to try to manage your expenses or argue your way out of your expenses, I would argue for some of you.
Well, we said ramen noodles, dollar store. I mean, like, just thinking through.
Yeah, we looked at, even though it's subsidized, we said some of your food, you could, because you go to a HOMEFRONT or another food pantry. And other miscellaneous expenses, same thing, you probably just won't buy cleaning supplies, you'll just do without that. I mean, really, it is like the attrition. But then the utility bills, we had this whole conversation about there are subsidies available, but the paperwork to get to those are almost insurmountable unless you're like a genius. So, yes, you can get help, but, you know.
But we decided not to. We could just use the stove to heat the apartment.
Oh, that's not
There's
safe.
probably about there's probably about 2 or 3 house fires a month in Trenton because of that exact reason.
That's right.
Well, candles, the stove being on in the winter.
So I'm funny about electricity. I mean, I grew up with no electricity ever in my house, so I was like adamant that we pay their electricity because I worry about the balloon payment that keeps happening over and over if you don't get help. So it just keeps adding up and adding up.
It doesn't go away.
Yeah, no, the anxiety attack that I had internally was not fun.
Let's talk about that. How did you feel when you were doing this?
Frustrated.
Stuck. Frustrated.
Slightly comfortable. Only for the following reason. I think part of it is because we've worked together in maybe not all the same team members, but I think there is some camaraderie that is built up in a few months. So I think it was kind of easy to kind of share thoughts and kind of think it through a little bit.
My
risk management brain was like, we are one slip away from computer failure.
I love, there's always at least one table that immediately has a calculator out, it was this table right here. Without fail, there's always somebody that immediately, like, alright, usually somebody's making a spreadsheet, I didn't see that here. That also happens, yeah.
We have the opposite, experience because we do really great cards, so we've got a surplus of $442.
So who here ended with a surplus, raise your hand. So, anyway, and you paid all the bills.
All the
Teamers.
So, let's pull that for a minute. These two tables that ended in surplus, these are obviously better people, right?
No,
What magic did you do?
It was lucky.
Wait, you were lucky, in what ways were you lucky?
We picked two cards actually that were the same on the rent that made it reduced our rent from $1,700 to $360.
So what happened on that card? Read me that card.
It said after being on
believe me that there were good cards.
yeah, after being on the waiting list for over 9 years, you have received a Section 8 voucher. You now have to pay only $360. So we saved $1,000. It was $1,361, and we went down to $360. So we saved $1,001 from that. And then we've picked the thing about getting a bonus from our work for $200, which we put into our food.
So this table got the same thing. How did you feel when you got it?
Woo!
Like, whew. Lottery.
How do those of you that did not get those, you're now hearing that those existed, how do you feel about that?
I kind of figured it was gonna exist and it was somewhere, and it's not fair, but you just, like, people who play sports and you're competitive and like there's always a way to win. It's not a way to win, like, you can't win unless you get that piece of luck, it's just.
We're gonna go live with them.
We got 3 chances.